Unexpected knock at the door, Millionaire's 100K suitcase revealed by incredible stranger, transforming a single mother's life before your eyes. Jenna slammed the door behind her, the day's exhaustion clinging to her like a shroud. The diner hummed faintly in her ears, the grease-stained memories of a double shift wrapping her in fatigue. She barely had time to catch her breath before her vivacious kids, Sarah and Lucas, greeted her with warmth that lit up her dim apartment. Their laughter filled the air, momentarily lifting the weight of overdue bills choking her spirit. The fleeting joy didn't erase the tightness in her chest that tugged relentlessly. In her late 30s, she was the epitome of the American dream gone wrong, a passionate mother fighting tooth and nail to make ends meet. The evening draped itself in darkness when an unexpected knock shattered the fragile peace. Jenna hesitated, her heart racing, the shadows of doubt creeping in. Who could it be at this hour? A ragged breath escaped her lips as she swung the door open. Before her stood Tom, a seasoned veteran of history, with rugged features softened by kind eyes. The suitcase by his feet hinted at mystery, and her curiosity flared up. "Can I help you?" she asked cautiously. As they spoke, Jenna learned that Tom was involved with local charities, helping families like hers grapple with their struggles. With each word he shared about his service overseas, Jenna felt a strange camaraderie blooming between them. She confided in him, spilling her daily trials as a single mother and the frantic race against time and bills. In their conversation, a connection sparked, a sense of understanding that wrapped around them both like a soft blanket, but then came the tension. When Tom revealed the suitcase contained $100,000 meant to assist families in need, Jenna's pride roared to life. "No, I can't accept this," she stammered, a knot forming in her throat. The suitcase was a beacon of hope, but also a reminder of the life she believed in, one built on self-reliance. Meanwhile, Tom wrestled with his own biases, feeling the weight of the assumptions he had about those living paycheck to paycheck. Before she could completely process the situation, a sudden knock echoed through her home again. It was her estranged brother, Mark. He stood there, resentment written across his face as strong as an iron bridge. His jabs cut deep as he questioned her integrity and judgment. "You take charity from a stranger?" he sneered, hinting at their family's fractured past and underlying judgments about financial struggle. Jenna felt corners of her heart tear open, exposing entrenched family issues as shadows flooded her mind. As the emotional storm raged, Jenna's gut twisted. Just as she began to imagine a life unfettered by debt, Tom leaned in closer and revealed a shocking truth about the suitcase, a revelation that turned everything on its head. Momentarily stunned, Jenna felt the air thicken, swirling around them like a whirlwind. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Within the confines of her living room, amid her brother's skepticism and the heavy suitcase, Jenna felt emotions: hope, fear, desperation twist and wrap tightly around her heart. Here she was poised for change, ready to embrace help, but tethered by the chains of her family's history and pride. Deep down, Jenna's world teetered on the brink. The next choice she made could reshape her family's future forever. Just as she prepared to grasp that elusive lifeline, her heart thudded. Another knock at the door. What waited behind the threshold could very well shatter everything she thought safe. Jenna stood frozen, the weight of Tom's revelation hanging in the air like a heavy fog. She could hardly breathe, caught between conflicting urges to accept the life-changing help and to reject it on principle. The soft sounds of Sarah and Lucas giggling from the other room seemed miles away. The second knock echoed louder, a jarring reminder that time was running out. Anxiety prickled at her skin. She glanced at Mark, whose expression was a mix of disbelief and contempt, as if he was relishing her predicament. "What now?" he snapped, arms crossed tightly across his chest, refusing to budge from the doorway. "Just a minute." Jenna called out, her voice shaky. She turned back to Tom, who patiently waited, his eyes reflecting compassion. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. Jenna, I know this seems overwhelming, but this money could be the start of a better life for you and your kids. What if it comes with strings? She whispered back, fear wrapping its icy fingers around her heart. Tom's brow furrowed in thought. No strings. This is about helping people who need it. The only thing I ask is that you use it to change your life. Mark scoffed from the door, inadvertently reminding her of all the times she had fought to prove herself. See? This is exactly why you're in this position. You'd rather take handouts than work for what you want. Shut up. She shot back, desperation flooding her voice. You don't understand. Before Mark could respond, Jenna flung the door open wider, momentarily gaining control of the situation. What do you want? She demanded. I'm here to help you, he said, his tone suddenly disarmed. But you need to see what's really happening. What's happening, she snapped, is that I'm being pulled in two directions. I don't have time for your judgments. The tension in the room crackled. Tom shifted, sensing the charged air between siblings. He reached down and tugged at the suitcase, careful not to break this pivotal moment. Jenna, you have people investing in you, believing in your ability to change. You have a chance here. Will you just let me think? She replied, clenching her jaw, her insides churning. The suitcase felt like a boiling pot, steam rising from it in a frantic rush, just waiting for someone to lift the lid. Suddenly, the knock returned, vicious and insistent, demanding her attention. Mark's eyes narrowed with irritation. Who else is it? With shaky hands, Jenna turned the knob, half expecting another of her problems to appear. Instead, the door swung open to reveal a woman in an elegantly tailored coat, her hair cascading like a golden waterfall over her shoulders. Excuse me, I'm here about the suitcase, the woman said, her voice smooth as silk but with an edge of urgency. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? Jenna asked, her heart racing once more. Someone is trying to seize the funds. They say it belongs to them, the woman explained, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Tension surged higher in the room, as Jenna felt reality pulling at her mind, threatening to shatter her fragile bubble of hope. What do you mean? Is it even possible? She stammered, shock paralyzing her. Tom exchanged glances with the woman, concern etched across his face. This just got a lot more complicated, he said quietly, as the seconds felt like hours. Jenna leaned against the doorframe, the weight of her choices crashing over her. Everything she thought she understood was slipping away. Was this help even within her reach? Or was it another cruel twist of fate, just like the rest of her life? As uncertainty loomed, Jenna had to make a decision. Would she fight against this new threat or let the opportunity slip away, like smoke through her fingers? The woman stepped forward, eyes fierce. You might need to make a decision quickly, Jenna. Time is running out. With her heart pounding in her ears, Jenna realized she was standing at a crossroads, and the next choice could change everything. Jenna felt her breath catch as the woman's words settled like heavy stones in her stomach. All her dreams started to swirl into a chaotic storm. The suitcase stood there, an emblem of hope, a lifeline dangling in front of her, and now it felt like it might be ripped away. Who is trying to take it? Jenna managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman hesitated, her gaze darting outside as if the answer might come rushing through the door behind her. A group that claims they were promised those funds. They believe they have certain rights to it, she finally said, a note of urgency creeping in. Mark leaned against the wall, crossing his arms tighter as if to physically hold himself together. The shadows played across his face, highlighting his skepticism. You need to let go of this fantasy, Jenna. Nothing comes without a cost. Shut up, Mark, her voice came out harder this time. This is my choice, my life. Her heart raced as she turned back to the woman, searching for any sign of assurance. So, what do I do? You need to act quickly. If you don't claim it, they'll take it. Legally, you might have a chance if you pursue it now, she explained, urgency sharpening her voice. Jenna's mind raced. Claim it? But how? The thought sent a wave of nausea through her. The nagging doubt clutched at her heart, mixing with the desperate flickers of hope. All her life, she had fought to stand up for herself, but was she ready to battle this unseen enemy? That money could pay for education, for a new start, for better things. Tom interrupted, his voice low and steady, reminding her of the potential paths unfurling before her. Or it could lead to more chaos. Mark scoffed, pushing himself off the wall, impeding Jenna's focus. You're chasing a mirage, Jenna. Mirage or not, it feels more solid than what I have now. She exploded, every word heavy with pent-up frustration. Maybe I'm tired of being the one who gets trampled by trial after trial. The woman stepped closer, her gaze steady. You have the power to change your narrative, but it starts now, not later. You can't let fear dictate your move. Jenna took a breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Each heartbeat echoed doubts, but also an undeniable flicker of determination. Time was indeed running out, and each second felt like a ticking clock driving her towards anything that might finally pave the way to stability. What if I do this? What if I fight? Jenna questioned, her voice trembling with a combination of fear and courage. The woman nodded, her expression softening. You deserve a chance to find your voice in this chaos. But you must be bold. Jenna glanced at Tom, who nodded ever so slightly. There was trust in his eyes, a reflection of faith. She could do this. Even with Mark's derisive expression looming, she could carve her path forward. Fine, I'll fight, Jenna declared, her heart suddenly pounding with a fierce determination. I want that money, and I want T back down. Great choice. The woman's smile held a mix of relief and pride. Let us start making calls, fight for what's yours. But we need to act fast. Jenna moved into action, ready to plunge herself into the spiral of uncertainty. Just as she began to process her next steps, a loud noise erupted from outside her apartment, a crash followed by shouts. The world outside collided with her moment of resolution, blurring the lines of her decisions and future. What the hell was that? Mark exclaimed, his earlier skepticism replaced with palpable concern as he rushed toward the window, peering out. Jenna's heart dropped again. What else could go wrong? It felt like the universe was testing her resolve at every turn. She stepped back, fighting the rising tide of fear, uncertain if she was ready for whatever storm was brewing beyond her door. What if this is just the beginning? She asked no one in particular, a mixture of dread and anticipation coiling in her gut. As the shouting intensified outside, Jenna froze, knowing she was about to discover just how deep this tangled web of fate and risk would go. Would she be ready to confront whatever waited on the other side? Jenna's heart raced as the shouting escalated, mingling with the chaos in her mind. She could barely think straight. Was she ready to fight? Was she ready to risk everything? The noise outside was becoming a clamor of confusion, drawing closer to her door. Stay back, Mark instructed, his voice tense as he edged closer to the window. We have no idea what's happening out there. Tom, still standing by Jenna, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It could be nothing. You need to focus on what's in front of you. But as the shouting turned to the sound of heavy footsteps coming up the stairs, Jenna felt that hope she had just ignited flicker. Each step reverberated in her chest, merging her determination with a growing sense of dread. Suddenly, the door rattled, an urgent knocking echoing through her apartment. Open up. It's the police. We need to speak with you. Jenna exchanged a wary glance with Tom. This was getting out of control. What did I get myself into? She muttered, the weight of her prior decisions crashing over her like a tidal wave. Don't answer it yet, Mark urged, a dark edge creeping into his voice. You might not want to get involved in whatever this is. This could be related to, the money. Jenna hesitated. What if they're here to help? What if they know something about the group that's after the suitcase? The knocks grew more insistent, punctuated by the sounds of voices below, heightened with urgency. The world felt like it was spiraling away from her, and she was standing at the epicenter of a storm. Tom drew in a deep breath. You have to decide, Jenna. This is about more than just the money. This is about your life, the path you choose. Mark scoffed. Or about getting into even deeper trouble. This is not your fight, Jenna. But this was her fight. In that moment, it crystallized inside her. She was tired of being cautious, tired of being on the sidelines. She turned toward the door, her heart pounding in her chest. No. I will not let fear control me anymore. Jenna, wait. Mark shot a warning look, shifting back from the window as if he could distance himself from this precarious situation. She ignored him, taking a step forward. The shouts from the other side surged louder, swirling around her like a whirlwind of emotions: fear, courage, hope, trepidation. She couldn't ignore them any longer. With a surge of adrenaline, Jenna took a deep breath and swung the door open wide. The scene that met her was unlike anything she had expected. A tall officer stood there, flanked by two others, their expressions a mixture of urgency and concern. Behind them, she caught sight of the chaos unfolding. A crowd had gathered, hushed murmurs circulating as if everyone was waiting for her next move. Ms. Jenna Carter. The officer called, his voice firm yet gentle. We need to speak with you about a situation that's developing regarding the funds you're connected to. Jenna's heart raced anew. This was it. It couldn't be a coincidence. Is this about the suitcase? She asked, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon her. Questions bubbled up in her mind like boiling water. What did they know? Did they mean trouble? The officer's gaze softened just a fraction. Can we come inside? As Jenna stepped back to let them in, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of an intertwining path of chaos and clarity. Whatever this is, I'm ready, Jenna thought, even as her heart felt heavy with uncertainty. The stakes had never felt higher. As the officers entered, Jenna sensed that her life was about to change in ways she didn't yet understand. What if they have answers? She wondered, the flickers of hope and fear battling fiercely within her. Little did she know, not everything was as it seemed. Jenna stepped back, allowing the officers to enter. The moment seemed to stretch into infinity. The heavy door closed behind them, sealing off the chaos outside but bringing a new kind of tension inside her apartment. The lead officer scanned the room, taking in Tom's worried expression and Mark's defensive stance. We're here because we received a tip about some suspicious activities linked to you, Ms. Carter. We need your full cooperation. Jenna nodded, swallowing hard. I don't know what you mean. I haven't done anything wrong. The officer shifted his stance, looking more serious. We've traced a considerable sum of money that has been moved through accounts associated with your name. We believe this is connected to a criminal organization. A cold wave of dread washed over her. But the suitcase. It's just some money I found. I swear, I didn't know it was tied to anything illegal. Mark stepped forward, his voice urgent. We can explain everything. There must be a misunderstanding. Jenna is just an innocent bystander in all of this. The officer's gaze flicked to Mark, measuring him, then back to Jenna. We need all your documents and any information about that suitcase. It's crucial to the investigation. Jenna felt the walls of her world begin to cave in. The suitcase had spiraled into something far bigger than she anticipated. She could see Mark's expression, an edge of concern mixed with confusion. Tom's face was already pale, his eyes wide with worry. Okay, Jenna said slowly, her mind racing. She had to think clearly. She took a breath and led the officers to her living room, revealing the small table where she had stashed the cash. But please, you have to believe me. I didn't know this was part of anything illegal. The officers exchanged glances as they approached the table. One of them, a woman with sharp features, reached for the suitcase, her fingers brushing against the worn leather. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice steadier now, pressing for details. "I found it at a garage sale last week," Jenna replied, her heart pounding as she visualized the moment of discovery. "I thought it was just an old piece of junk until I opened it." "Can you recall the seller?" The officer pressed, her pen poised above her notepad, ready to take notes. A flicker of recognition flashed through Jenna's mind. "Yes. It was an old man. I think he mentioned something about moving out of town. He had all sorts of stuff for sale." The officer nodded, taking down notes. "Good. That might help us trace where this money came from. This could lead to something very serious." Jenna felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her heart raced not just with anxiety but with a flicker of excitement. Maybe this was the chance she needed to take control of her life. "This doesn't have to end badly," Jenna interjected, desperation coloring her words. "I want to help. I'm just trying to figure out my part in all this." Mark shot her a surprised glance, but Jenna could see Tom looking at her with a mixture of admiration and fear. He understood the risk, but Jenna was determined. She had taken back control before, and now, she could do it again. Just as the officer opened the suitcase with careful intent, a loud crash echoed from outside, drawing all their attention. The sound of shattered glass and shouts erupted, sending Jenna's heart into a tailspin. "Stay here," the officer commanded as she dashed toward the door. Panic surged within Jenna's chest. She felt the ground shift beneath her feet. What was happening out there? As chaos unfolded outside, Jenna realized the danger was closing in. She had opened a door to a world she knew little about, and it seemed there was no turning back now. What had she unleashed? And how far would this mess go? Jenna's heart pounded as moments stretched into what felt like a lifetime. She exchanged worried glances with Tom and Mark, both of whom were also frozen in disbelief, awaiting some kind of resolution. The air thickened with uncertainty, and every instinct in her screamed for action. "Do you think it's connected to what is happening?" Mark whispered, his voice barely audible above the distant chaos. Jenna could see the fear in his eyes mirrored in Tom's. "It has to be," Jenna replied, anxiety creeping into her voice. "What if they're after me? What if that man at the garage sale? He didn't seem dangerous, but what do I really know?" The officer was gone, leaving an empty space in the room where authority had just lifted the weight of the unknown. Jenna's mind buzzed with fragmented thoughts. She replayed her encounter with the old man, his hunched frame and shaky voice. His words echoed in her head, "Just take it. It'll be worth something someday." What had she gotten herself into? Suddenly, heavy footsteps thundered outside her apartment, breaking her concentration. The door rattled, and another officer burst through, urgency hanging off every syllable he spoke. "Get back. We need to secure the area." "What is going on?" Jenna asked, her voice trembling. "Is everyone okay?" "No time," he fired back, looking at her as if she were a puzzle that could unravel at any moment. "We're under threat. There are people out here who won't stop until they get what they want." Jenna's stomach dropped. A shadow loomed over her life, and she had only started to sift through the wreckage. The suitcase was more than just an unwanted relic, it was a beacon drawing in hidden dangers. "Stay away from the windows," Tom advised, his hand gripping her elbow tightly. Jenna glanced at the shattered particles of glass glittering on the floor. The world outside was chaotic, fragments of a life she never intended to become entwined in. She could see shadows darting past her, curtain figures lurking and searching. Anxiety clawed at her insides as she realized how alone she felt in this moment. "Jenna, we should leave," Mark urged, a note of panic creeping into his otherwise calm demeanor. "Leave? And go where?" Jenna snapped, frustration spilling over. "I can't just run away. I need to understand what is happening." Before Mark could respond, the lead officer re-entered, a sense of urgency in her stride. "We got reports of a potential armed threat. Whoever's after that suitcase might be here. We need to move fast." Adrenaline flooded Jenna's system. They had to act, but how could she escape the grip of a world she hadn't knowingly entered? "What if they come here? I can't hide forever," she said, desperation bubbling up. The officer cast a deliberate look at the suitcase. "Then we'd better not waste time." In that moment, Jenna felt a surge of determination fusing with her anxiety. She had to confront this head-on. "If it's tied to me, then I will face it. I might be scared, but I want to let this define me." Mark's expression shifted, admiration mixed with disbelief. Tom simply nodded, and for the first time, Jenna felt a spark of hope. Perhaps there was a way out. The officer acknowledged her resolve. "Good. You need to tell us everything you remember about the cellar and that money. Names, places, anything that might help." Just as Jenna began to gather her thoughts, there was another crash, louder this time. The officer's eyes widened. "It's moving closer." Heart racing, Jenna clenched her fists at her sides. Was she ready for what was coming? Could she be the hero of her own story, or was she leading everyone into danger? In the midst of the gathering storm, Jenna realized that choices were closing in on her. She had to decide whether to run or stand her ground. And as she felt a swell of emotion rise within her, she knew that this moment could either break her or give her strength. What would she choose to fight for? As the sounds grew nearer, a figure burst into her sight, and Jenna's world shifted again. Who was it? And did they come as friend or foe? The figure stood in the doorway, framed by the flickering light of the hallway. Jenna's breath caught in her throat as she squinted to see through the shadows. It was a woman, tall and elegant, dressed in a long coat that billowed slightly despite the stillness around them. Her dark hair flowed like a waterfall down her back, and a fierce determination radiated from her presence. "Stay behind me," the officer barked, positioning himself protectively in front of Jenna and her friends. "Wait," Jenna urged, her voice a mixture of caution and curiosity. "She looks familiar." As the woman stepped closer, the dim light revealed an expression of urgency etched on her face. She scanned the chaotic room, taking in the shattered glass and forced tension that filled the air. "Jenna. It's me, Lila. We don't have much time," she said, her voice a calm contrast to the storm swirling around them. "Lila?" Jenna asked, trying to grasp the connection, but something clicked inside her mind. It was the sharp-featured woman from the networking event, the one who had been so insistent about that garage sale. "What are you doing here? How do you know my name?" "I came to warn you. The suitcase you have, it's important more than you realize." Lila took a cautious step forward, her gaze glinting with determination. "They're coming for it, Jenna, and they won't stop until they get what they want." The officer kept his stance, but Jenna felt herself lean closer to Lila's words, drawn in by the desperation behind them. "What are you talking about? What's in it?" "Listen," Lila urged, glancing over her shoulder as if sensing ghosts in the shadows. "There are people who believe that suitcase contains proof and power. Things everyone thinks are just myths. But it's real, and I can help you." Jenna exchanged a look with Tom and Mark. Fragments of hope and fear tumbled within her. She could run, hide, and hope it all went away, or she could dive into the mystery ahead. "What do you mean, proof?" "The suitcase holds secrets connected to a hidden fortune and a legacy tied to my family. It's why they'll stop at nothing to retrieve it," Lila insisted, urgency twisting her features. "I know it sounds insane, but you have to trust me." The air grew heavier as the truth sank in a foreboding weight that tugged at Jenna's gut. The reality of what she held seemed to pulse with an energy far beyond anything she could have ever imagined. "I don't even know what I've gotten myself into. I just wanted something unique, something with a story. Now that story is a grave threat to your life, and to your friends," Lila warned, her eyes darting with concern. "We must leave. Right now." As if to punctuate her urgency, another loud crash pierced the quiet, sending adrenaline surging through Jenna's veins. Thoughts spiraled as she tried to comprehend everything. Could she trust Lila? Were they truly safe with her? Deep inside, a flicker of instinct told Jenna this was the moment she had to choose. "Okay," Jenna said, heart racing, "what do we do?" "First, you need to take the suitcase and come with me. If we're going to stand a chance, we need to figure out a plan." With the weight of her decision hanging in the air like thunder, Jenna nodded and grabbed the suitcase. The move felt surreal, palpable energy radiating between her and Lila, grounding her amidst the wild uncertainty. As the group prepared to make their escape, Jenna felt eyes on her from outside, shadows lurking with ominous intent. They were running out of time. And as they headed for the door, the cracks in their reality widened. Who was tracking them, and how many were involved? Jenna had stepped into a much bigger world than she'd ever anticipated. One where the stakes were life and death. And in the throes of this unknown kettle of fears, a new question loomed large in her mind: what kind of legacy was she being thrust into? Because as they fled toward the unknown, Jenna realized she was only just beginning to understand the enormity of the choices laid out before her. Jenna felt the pulse of her heart in her throat as they pushed through the door into the cool night. The air outside was sharp and refreshing, a stark contrast to the chaos inside. She could feel the weight of the suitcase in her hand, heavy with mystery and danger. The alley was dark, a slice of shadows cutting through the streetlights, and she quickly glanced around, scanning for any sign of threats. Lila's voice broke through her thoughts. "We need to move. This way." The woman led them down the narrow path, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement. Mark and Tom followed close behind, their faces a mix of fear and determination. "Why is it so important?" Jenna asked, trying to keep pace with Lila while wrapping her mind around the whirlwind of information. "What is this legacy you keep mentioning?" "It's complicated," Lila said, her brow furrowing as she hurried along. "Let's just say my family has always been involved in certain matters. The suitcase contains documents and artifacts that could change everything. Who runs this city, who holds the power? And they want to keep that a secret." Tom chimed in. "Why not just destroy it? Why go after us?" "Because some people believe they need those secrets to maintain control," Lila explained, urgency threading her tone. "They'll do anything to get it back. They think they have a right to it. Trust me, Jenna, you're now a part of something that goes beyond the ordinary. You've stumbled onto a web of deception." Jenna shivered slightly, a mix of adrenaline and cold creeping into her bones. She had only sought to find a treasure, a story for her small blog, yet here she was an unwilling player in a dangerous game. What if we just turn back? Hand over the suitcase? Do you really think that would end it? Lila shot back, stopping suddenly to catch Jenna's gaze. "If they find you with it, they'll come after you no matter what. The only way out is to fight." Jenna's mind raced with images of shadows chasing her through deserted streets, of danger wrapped in the proximity of the suitcase. It was more than she wanted. More than she bargained for. But another part of her felt unyielding, a spark of defiance ignited within. She wanted to reclaim her story, to take control. "So what is the plan?" Lila stepped closer, her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I have a safe place where we can sort this out. I can show you what's in the suitcase and help you understand why it matters. But we need to hurry." Just then, a flicker of movement caught Jenna's eye. She turned instinctively, her heart dropping. A figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted against the dim light. "Stop right there!" A man shouted, pointing an accusatory finger. His voice was laced with authority and venom. "Run!" Lila yelled, grabbing Jenna's arm and pulling her forward. The group surged into action, sprinting down the alley as fear propelled them. Jenna's mind swirled with uncertainty and fear. Could they truly outrun danger? They darted around a corner, skirting past an old dumpster that overflowed with trash. Jenna's breath came in sharp gasps, determination fighting against the thudding of her heart. She had questions, but survival was the priority. As they hurtled down the street, Lila led them into a dimly lit bar, pushing the door open with a force that left an audible thud behind them. The chatter inside hushed for a moment as they burst in, the atmosphere charged with curiosity. But Lila didn't pause. She pulled them into the back room, closing the door softly but quickly. "Now," Lila said, drawing the curtain shut with precision, "we're safe for a moment. But that doesn't mean this is over. We need to make a decision about what comes next." The suitcase sat between Jenna and Lila, the silence thick like fog. Each breath was compounded by unspoken fears and a sense of reluctant loyalty forming in Jenna's chest. Could she really trust this woman? As she peered at Lila, a realization walloped her life as she knew it was forever altered. They were tangled in something wild and unpredictable, far from her ordinary world. What had she signed up for, and would she have the courage to face the truths hidden within that suitcase? The answers loomed just out of reach as the flickering lights in the bar cast long shadows, hinting at the dark depths surrounding her. With uncertainty brewing, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What secrets lay ahead, and how far would they go to keep or claim what belonged to them? Jenna felt the weight of the moment settle heavily in the musty air of the dim bar. The suitcase, resting silently on the table, seemed to pulse with secrets, as if it held the very answers they sought if only they had the courage to pry them free. She glanced at Lila, who wore a mask of fierce determination, her eyes glinting with the challenges ahead. "What's in it?" Jenna finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper, thick with both fear and curiosity. She reached for the bag, her fingers trembling over its worn surface. Lila hesitated, her breath catching. "You need to understand before we open it, this isn't just about information. It's about power and lives. Your life. My life." Mark and Tom hovered by the door, glancing nervously over their shoulders. The hairs on Jenna's neck stood up, the threat of their pursuer lingered like an electric charge in the air. The bar was not a fortress. They were still in danger, tangled in someone else's game. "We don't have much time," Tom urged, straining to peer through the drawn curtains. If they find us," he pointed at the suitcase, "we'll be dead before we can blink." Jenna swallowed hard. She had dreamed of stories that spanned as wide as the ocean, but those stories had never involved life or death. "So we fight back?" she asked, her voice gaining strength as she stood taller, clenching her fists. Lila nodded, appreciation flickering in her eyes. "Yes, but not recklessly. We need a plan, an ally, someone who knows how to navigate the underground." "I know just the person." "Who?" Mark asked, crossing his arms. "And how do we find them?" Just as Lila was about to reply, a loud crash echoed from the front of the bar, sending vibrations through the walls. The atmosphere shifted from curiosity to panic. Voices erupted and footsteps thudded, a growing wave of chaos quickly reaching them. "Stay low," Lila commanded, her tone shifting to focused urgency as she crouched down, pulling Jenna and the others with her. "We can't let them see us." Jenna's mind raced as she felt the warmth of her companions close by. Together, they were a fragile unit, each relying on the other, but on the brink of collapse. "Are we going to run again? Is this all we can do?" Jenna whispered fiercely, frustration boiling. She wanted more than just survival, she wanted to fight. "No," Lila replied, meeting her gaze. "We'll stand our ground. If we're going to be hunted, we might as well learn to fight back. But first, we need the suitcase open. We'll take advantage of everything inside." With time ticking by, Lila moved to unzip the suitcase, her hand steady yet shaking ever so slightly. As the sound of zippers glided against the worn fabric, Jenna's heart thundered in her chest. What lay inside could change everything, could smash the facade of control that seemed to grip their lives so tightly. The suitcase opened, the contents barely noticeable in the dim light. Documents, old photographs, and faded maps spilled forth, each piece of paper holding stories of its own. As Jenna leaned in, she felt the pulse of revelation. This was what she sought. Answers, secrets intertwined with their fates. Yet, a deep-seated dread coiled in her stomach. The echoes of footsteps grew closer. Now or never, Lila snapped, glancing back towards the door. Are we ready to expose the truth? Jenna's fingers brushed against the photographs, her heart racing as she realized the history they held. But there was still a dangerous unknown lingering just outside their fragile security. What if we open a door we can't close? Tom murmured, uncertainty bleeding through his voice. With a determined breath, Jenna replied, then we'll face whatever comes together. It's time to uncover those secrets, even if it means standing up against a legacy we never wanted. As Lila nodded in agreement, the tension in the room shifted. They were on the cusp of a revelation, the cusp of a fight for something bigger than any of them. But just then, a heavy thud sounded at the back door, jolting Jenna out of her focus. The stakes were higher than ever. She could feel it in her bones. Would they find the strength to face the dangers ahead? And what would they discover when the past collided violently with their present? Jenna braced herself as the heavy thud reverberated against the back door, a stark reminder that danger was closing in. Her heart raced, a wild rhythm echoing in her ears, but within that chaos, a new fire ignited inside her. They weren't just running anymore, they were about to uncover something monumental. Now or never, Lila whispered urgently, fingers hovering over the scattered contents of the suitcase. We need to know what we're dealing with. Do we have any other choice? Mark grumbled, peering through the curtain. Because if they find us here, it's over. Jenna's resolve sharpened like a sharpened blade. We can't live in fear any longer. We need to fight for our futures. She took a step closer, face determined, heart resolute. Together now, they were poised for something greater. Lila began hurriedly sorting through the contents. Photographs of unfamiliar faces, bustling old streets, and maps dotted with arcane symbols drew Jenna in. What is all of this? She asked, her fingers trembling over the aged paper. Each piece of the puzzle felt like a key to her unknown destiny. It's a legacy, Lila replied, eyes bright with fervor. You see, these people, they were part of something bigger. This suitcase connects old guards to current power dynamics, those who control things from the shadows. Shouldn't we destroy it instead? Tom interjected, worry etching his brows. If they want it that badly, it can't mean anything good. No, Lila countered, determination lacing her voice. If we unravel it carefully, we can use this information to gain leverage against them. If power is the game, then we can play, too. Before Jenny could respond, another booming slap resonated against the door. Desperation started to claw at her throat, and the shadows of forces beyond her comprehension loomed larger. Maybe you're right, but what if it leads to more harm? She pressed, fighting against uncertainty. We can't be reactive. We're in control now, Lila said firmly, glancing out the window again, her posture tense. It's all about positioning. Information is our strongest weapon. They moved swiftly, flipping through the pages of old documents, historic artifacts, and unsettling connections. It was thrilling yet terrifying how linked everything was to their present turmoil. Each moment felt loaded with purpose. Look! Jenna's voice burst forth, exhilaration and anxiety mixing like a storm, as her fingers traced a name, her own family's name, on a faded ledger. What does this mean? Lila's eyes widened as she leaned closer, her brow furrowing. If your family is tied to this, it puts you at the heart of everything. You could be the key to bargaining against the very forces that want to manipulate this legacy. Jenna's heart thudded audibly. I'm not a pawn, she retorted, fire igniting even more fiercely now. I am not going to let anyone pull my strings. Just then, the door rattled violently, and Jenna realized they had only moments before the chaos broke the fragile calm. We have to hide everything, Mark insisted, his fear bubbling over. They will come through any second. Not yet, Lila countered, chin lifting defiantly. The chaos roiling just beyond the door urged them forward. Once we expose this, we gain power, but we need to be ready. If we're caught unprepared, Jenna's stomach tightened, then we'll lose everything. The pressure mounted, and they exchanged meaningful glances filled with both apprehension and fierce loyalty. Okay, Jenna steeled herself, taking a breath that steadied her trembling heart. Let us make a plan. She looked into Lila's eyes, feeling that flicker of shared resolve grow strong amongst them. It was time to stand together, time to choose a future out of the mire. Tom, keep an eye out. Mark, help me pack these documents carefully. We can't afford to lose anything valuable. Not now, Jenna commanded, each word wrapped in sincerity and the urgency of their shared predicament. No going back. Lila added, her tone clear and resolute. We're in this together. And with that, Jenna grabbed the suitcase. This heavy weight now felt less burdensome and more like a shield. As the rattling intensified once more, Jenna exhaled, each breath a mixture of light and darkness colliding within her soul. No matter what happens next, I will not let fear control my life. This is my fight now. She declared fiercely, with the tension thick as the air in the bar. They worked synchronously, readying themselves for an uncertain confrontation. As they finished, Lila glanced toward the door, her gaze fierce with determination. Prepare yourselves. Whatever happens, we rise together. The door was about to erupt under the weight of desperation, but Jenna could feel it, the spark of something new, the strength held in their community. They made their final adjustments as the door finally burst open, determined figures pouring through, shadows of hostility looming large. Jenna's heart raced, but in that moment of chaos, she felt a wave of invincibility surge within. This was her fight, and she was more than ready. Bring it on, she thought, grasping the suitcase tight, ready to explore her tangled legacy and uncover the truth that would shake the very ground beneath them. They were about to define their own destiny, together, resistance flourishing despite the odds. And just like that, an unstoppable force was born. Now is the moment for you, too. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the incredible exclusive stories coming your way. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. Comment below with your thoughts on this thrilling ending and your feelings on Jenna's transformation, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what it means to stand up and fight back.